Oh, there we go. I'm sorry about that, guys. Here we are. All right, you can hear me now. We should be good. Um, so what I was saying was hello, welcome on into the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge with me, Sam Peterson. It's good to see you guys. I'm going to be with you for the next 2 weeks. We're going to be doing Photoshop challenges each day, Monday through Friday, for 30 minutes. And if you guys are watching this in the future, it might say Creative Encore down at the bottom. That means this is a recording. So just a heads up to everyone, we do this 2 weeks live and then 2 weeks replay. So if you aren't familiar with what the daily creative challenges for Photoshop are, let me show you. You can go here to the landing page, which is behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. And if you scroll down, you'll see the first challenge is today, and that is perspective match. So this is what I'm excited to talk about. I've studied perspective on and off over the years for quite some time for drawing and painting, but I want to show you how you can use that for photo composites, photo editing, and all that good stuff. So we're going to jump into that pretty soon, but first, I would like to talk about the Discord. So this is the community Discord. This is where you can post all your designs. You can basically share it with the community. If you're doing any of these challenges, you can share your own challenges in the Design Others section. The challenge section is where you're going to post current challenges. You can ask a question. Maybe I should hop on over here so you can see it better. You can ask a question down here under the advice section. Lots of useful sections. Check it out. We already have some really cool designs from yesterday. So yesterday was just the welcome day. I covered Photoshop a little bit. We talked about some basics, but we did a little cover image using some masking and some techniques to get a little bit of depth in the text. And already awesome job by Jono UK. Kajrov, I think is how I was pronouncing it in my head. Hopefully that's right. I'm not sure how to pronounce this name, but a really awesome design. Great depth in that one. Digging it. We got Soul Prince with an awesome cover as well. So feel free to post these. We got a lot of them here, as you can see. Some really cool entries. But this is the place to join, congregate, share, all that stuff after the streams are over. So if you want to kind of share what you're doing, get feedback, all that stuff, we have mentors in the chat that are there to help as well. So today we're going to be talking about perspective a little bit. I basically want to go over something that I think is really important in photo compositing, because I think there's two major things that I notice when people are doing photo composites and edits where they're incorporating different images into another image. And that is lighting. Lighting is a huge one, the direction of the lighting being the same direction and everything. But another is perspective. If something is in a different angle or a different perspective, it won't look quite right. So I want to talk very quickly about 1 and 2 point perspective. If you're not familiar with that, if you are, then you're ahead of the game, you're good to go. But if you have an image like this, for example, or an image like this, how do you identify the perspective in it and then incorporate that perspective into any elements that you may add into it? So that's what we're going to do today. But let's jump into the little lesson I want to go over. So I'm going to make this brief. It's going to be a little crash course on perspective. So we got 1 and 2 point perspective. You can see in the corner, 1 point perspective, 2 point perspective. Put simply, 1 point perspective is when one set of parallel lines is converging to a common vanishing point. And if you take anything away from the lesson on perspective, I want it to be that. Parallel lines converge to a common vanishing point. So in a 1 point perspective situation, you might see this with like train tracks going off onto the horizon, or a hallway, that school hallway you saw. It's pretty much 1 point perspective. But you can see here, one set of these parallel lines go off into a vanishing point. So you can kind of do that any way. I'll do a really quick example. For 1 point perspective, you pretty much just draw a box. So the verticals are vertical. Let's actually do it somewhere where you can actually see what's going on more. The verticals are vertical, the horizontals are horizontal, and then you just basically take the corners. This is going to be kind of rough. And I'm just actually shift clicking. If you guys are wondering how to do this, if you hold on shift while you click, you'll get straight lines. You can do that horizontally, vertically, but also you can do it with diagonals. So we have a very simple little box, and you can cut it off wherever you want. I can put it here, I can make it a longer box, put it here, and then you just trace, again, the horizontals, and the verticals are horizontal and vertical. So we got a little box there. You can do the same thing with 2-point. But I just want to point out that the horizon line is this line right here. It's where the vanishing point converges on. And basically the horizon line is your eye level. So if you have an object above the horizon line, you can see that we can see the bottom of it a little bit. And if you have a subject below the horizon line, you can see the top of it a little bit. And also, I just realized I never said hey to everyone. And how dare I? Betty, Andreas, General Kenobi, Odari. Hello, everyone. I just got so excited for perspective that I just jumped into it. Brittany, our own Way to Cuff modding. Valdair, one of our mentors. Norsh, Fady, Ted. Good to see everyone. Carol, Kevin. Man, everyone's in here. Bruce, Michelle, Frank, Sean. I didn't get Sean, I don't think. Floyd, Dorina. Good to see you. Welcome on in, everyone. Tim. All right, so hello, everyone, and welcome. Good to see you again on our first challenge. Sam's so rude, I know. Where are my manners? Stony, good to see you as well. So welcome on in, everybody. So that's 1-point perspective. Hopefully that makes sense. If you ever have questions, feel free to ask me in the Discord or here on stream, and I can do my best to answer. 2-point perspective is just that two sets of parallel lines converge to different vanishing points. So instead of drawing a box where, pretend those are horizontal lines and vertical lines, you actually kind of draw like a corner. So just like a vertical line. And from here, you can connect one set of lines to one vanishing point and the other, see if I can click accurately, to another vanishing point. And then you just connect here. You can cut it off anywhere you want. This can be a really thin box. And then you can connect these corners. Just think of a box in space. This would be parallel with these lines. This is going to be the world's thinnest box. And this is going to be parallel with these lines. And you can see because it's above the horizon line, we have a little bit of the view of the bottom. So that's 2-point perspective. And now I want to talk about how do you identify this in an image. Really quickly, I'll go over this. I'm going to get my line tool, hotkey U. Let's see, what color do we got? Maybe need a little more width on that. No fill. What's going on with this guy? Okay, I'll just draw it for now. Oh, there we go. I was in the wrong. All right. Wrong layer there. All right, so if you have an image, let's start with this one. When you're editing an image and you want to fit it in, you want to look for guidelines that have little indicators of perspective. So any parallel lines, any man-made structures, those things are really easy to find them. So the top and bottom of this locker is going to be the easiest for me. And we already see they're converging. But, if you want to be sure or you want to have more guidelines for yourself, we can use the tiles of this roof. You can see that. Ceiling. Guess that would be a ceiling. I know words. There's even some tile lines here, as faint as they are. And you can see all these things are converging to a common vanishing point. So if we need to put anything in this scene, we now know where the vanishing point is, and we can do that. Let me show you a little bit more. Here, let me group these, hide them, get them out of our face. All right, so this one, 2-point perspective. So I'm going to trace the edge of the roof here. What am I doing wrong? All right, I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong here, but I'm going to do it freehand. If I can. Do I have a selection? Does anyone know what is happening? I swear this didn't happen before. All right, I may just have to explain it. So you would trace the roof here, and then you would trace the ground plane here, but even the windows line up here. So if you put some lines down, you'll see that the lines actually converge somewhere over here. And if you trace these lines here, the floor, these kind of white pillars, or not pillars, but these white lines on the building, the layer group is hidden. Oh my goodness, that might be it. That might be it. We'll figure that out later. You'll see the other vanishing point is somewhere around here. So 2-point perspective, typically the vanishing point converges off the scene, but you can still use those guidelines to kind of guess where it's going to be. So if you have 2 lines here, one in the top, one in the bottom, you can kind of put one in the middle that averages out the 2, and that's going to be a pretty accurate guide. So let's talk about this today. We're going to be doing this image here, and we're going to be fitting something into perspective. Oh, put your head on the other side, please. Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, you guys couldn't see my layers there. Oh, this was actually what we did the first day. I don't know why I have that open. So we're going to edit this, but first I want to prep the image so we can put our own little scene or our own little graphic in perspective. So I'm going to do Control J to duplicate it, or Command J if you're on Mac. You can work non-destructively a few different ways. Make extra layers, duplicate the layer that you're using, or use smart objects. But for this one, I'm just going to duplicate it. And then I'm going to get our spot healing tool. Sorry, our spot healing brush tool, which is right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to get rid of some of these graphics that I want to put my own graphic over. And you can see the AI in Photoshop's pretty good about getting rid of that, guessing what I want to get rid of. I'm going to try to get rid of this too as well. And sometimes it's good to do it in smaller strokes. I find that I have a bit better luck when I don't try to do big sections all at once. But you can play around with it. It's a really useful tool. A lot of flexibility with the spot healing brush. And there's a lot of organic nature to this wood grain. But as long as it still looks kind of believable and organic. There's this board here that's very hard to see. So I'm just going to try to get rid of that like hard line a bit. But where I mostly see this board is right where it connects at the top. So what I'm going to do for that is I think the clone stamp tool would be best suited for this. So the clone stamp you can sample by holding on Alt or Option. Sample an area. And then you'll see the preview there. So we can line it up, click, do a little drag back and forth to paint it on. Perfect. Now we get a blank canvas. One more thing I'm going to do is take my spot healing brush tool and get rid of this side, because I want to put something on this side too. This is pretty easy to remove. It's pretty faint, but I just want to get rid of it completely. Perfect. So now we got a blank canvas that we can do. Let's see here. All right, so next what I want to do is make some text. I think we should make this a box with a robot in it. What do you say? So I'm going to put this away. Let's do all caps. Let's do robot inside. Handle with caution. And you can see I'm using a font here that's a stencil font. It's called D-Day Stencil. So if you're interested in something like that, check it out. I'm going to go to the top here and turn my text black to match in with all the graphics that are currently on the box. I think 170 pixels is actually pretty good for this image. You can play around with the size. But that looks pretty good to me. So let's put that in place. I think I want it somewhere around there. And then what I want to do is you can manipulate this with the transform tools to some degree when it's a text file, but to get a little bit more flexibility, we're actually going to right click this and turn it into a smart object. And that way I'll have more flexibility. So what I want to do is I want to put this in perspective on the scene. But first, what I want to show you, I want to make a little, see if this works. All right, we got our line back. So these are the lines for the box, right? And you don't need to make these guides. You can if they help you. But these are our perspective guides. Now we don't know where it's going off to a vanishing point here, but we can kind of estimate it. And this is what I was saying before. So we have these two. So what I do to kind of get something, I kind of estimate like in between those two. So the one in the middle might be there, and the one on here might be like that. And you can actually plot out where they converge way down the line if you want accuracy. But you know, I just may have some general guide like that. So I'm going to group that. I'm just going to call those guides. I can merge those down. I'll leave that for now. So if we need to look back on that, we can. From here, I'm going to take the free transform. You can go to edit, transform, and perspective. But what I don't like about that is it manipulates more than one side at a time, which can be good for certain circumstances, but I like manipulating it with free transform. So if you hold on Command or Control, you can actually kind of control one section at a time and see, you know, kind of play with it until it looks good to you. We can go back to our guides, see if that kind of falls in line with the angle of the guides. I can also just use the angle of the angle of the box as it is now. I think maybe this could be adjusted a little bit. Whoops. I think that looks pretty good. So I want to go ahead and duplicate that. Control J. I was thinking we could fit it on this other one. I probably should have duplicated it beforehand, but we can just kind of warp it to a spot that looks good. We can always check our guides, but I think this is pretty accurate. And then I'm going to actually grab the center one and squish it, because you get a lot of foreshortening in perspective, so keep that in mind. When something this foreshortened, it might appear more like that. And I think I might scale this down overall for this side. I very rarely use the perspective tool. I honestly always use the free transform. I just feel like it gives me more flexibility. I can do it on the fly. Just going to check, make sure I didn't miss any questions. Raiders of the Lost Ark, exactly. All right, so I think we want to do one more thing. There's a robot in here, right? But let's make that more official. I think we should take a robot logo. So I have some assets in here. We got this robot. We got these robots. I kind of like this little yellow guy in the middle, though. So what I'm going to do to grab that very quickly is I'm going to go to my quick selection tool here up on the left. I'm going to do select subject. And since the background is just white, it does a pretty good job of grabbing it. But I'm going to grab my magic wand tool next and try to isolate the robot here. There's some white in the middle, so I'm going to hold on Alt or Option to subtract that selection. And the magic wand tool is good at grabbing flat colors, and there's a lot of them here. So if I see any areas I don't want, I'm just holding on Alt or Option and clicking it. Now, when I click these dark ones, it subtracts the same color from our robot because contiguous is unchecked. But let me try turning that off. Just clicking all these areas away. And if we need to use the lasso tool for any fine tuning, we can do that. Get rid of this little guy's blue hand. We don't need that. And I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to press L for my lasso tool. You can also find it right here. And I'm going to select, I'm going to hold on Alt or Option and select away all these areas that we don't need, which is the rest of the image. Zoom out, just get rid of that, get rid of that. And we got our little guy. So I'm going to Control C. Let's get rid of this. Do Control V, and we got him in place. Now what I want to do to make him appear like a graphic like everything else is we're going to lock transparencies here up at the top left of the layers panel, this little checkerboard. And that makes it so we can only paint on the pixels visible on that layer, which is the robot. Perfect. All right, so I got him. I think he looks pretty cool. It's a nice little robot graphic. I'll make him a bit smaller. Actually, what do I want to do? I think what I want to do, we can make him a smart object. Um, but I'm also going to mask him out to be a little bit more textured like our text. So I actually have this brush. And if I turn down the flow very low, let me see here. Let's go like 3 or something, 6 maybe. Yeah, this brush is interesting because the longer you hold on it, the more aggressive it gets. So we can use that to our advantage. Just gonna do quick swipes. But if I want to mess up the edges at all, I can kind of do that. Just scrape away a bit. Just give it a little bit more rustic look. Like it's been bumped around in shipping. And this is with masking. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. Sorry. The little button down here, the rectangle with the circle, you can create a mask here. But you paint with black to conceal, white to reveal, so we can always paint it back in if we want. But I'm using black to hide it here. And I think that looks pretty good. Little scuffs here and there. There's our little robot icon. One more on the foot. Okay. So I'm going to duplicate this with Command or Control J because I want one for the other side. I'm going to hide the duplicate. And then I'm going to get my move tool. And I'm going to use Control or Command. Just kind of warp him in place. Now, if you need to check your guides, do so. But I can kind of line up the flatness of the feet with the text. But I should try to get it in the size that I want first, because the positioning will affect the angle of the perspective. So I think something like that looks not too bad. You can always... Yeah, that looks pretty convincing to me. So let's get his brother here. And we'll do the same thing. Command or Control J. This is going to be a lot more extreme perspective. You can kind of line it up with the bottom of the crate or the text. So we're going to have to squish this too like we did previously. I'm going to press Enter to confirm those commands. I'm going to squish them, and then I'm going to try to get him in place because the fine-tuning will always will make us need to adjust this. So the bottom looks good to me, lining his feet up with that text. But the top looks a little odd to me. And you can eyeball a lot of this. There's a lot of organic shapes in this robot. So a lot of it is just, does it look right? Does it look a little off? You can adjust it to your heart's content. See if that looks good. I'll give it one more little squish. And then I think we're about ready to call this. So I want to take the two robots and lighten up the opacity just a bit. The black looks a little stark to me. And actually, I want to make this guy smaller. It looks a bit big. Adjust his feet. Press Enter. The text, I'm going to take it down to maybe like 80% opacity. And then there we go. We got our images in perspective. You want to match the lighting too. That's why I was taking down the opacity, the angle. A lot of those things are going to be the bulk of what makes it look right or not. The only thing I would do from here is, and we don't really have time unfortunately, but I'd create like a multiply layer. Maybe I'd make a little like vignette, add a color lookup. If you guys want to take this further, you can give it a little mood, but a bit of a vignette and a color lookup might be good. Do that real quick. We'll go to Layer, Adjustment Layer, Color Lookup. Okay. And adjustment layers are going to affect everything underneath it. So these are really good. I'll probably do a levels adjustment and an exposure adjustment, really play around to get it right. But we're pretty much done here. And maybe foggy or blue, something like that. I think we'd have to do a little bit of a levels adjustment. But I'm going to call it here, guys. I'll show you that on the Discord. I'll wrap it up there. I'll show you the finished product. But that's the main lesson for today. If you want to share your designs, make sure to hop into the Discord here. Join the Discord. You can post it in the current challenge section. And if you want to join the challenges, just go to the landing page. You'll be able to sign up, register, do all that for this right here. So do this challenge, share it with me. We'll give you feedback. We'll check it out. I'm excited to see what everyone does. You don't need to use these images, but you totally can. So if this is what you want to do, use these images. Feel free to create your own and make your own design. So thanks so much for joining, everyone. I'll see you all in the Discord. Appreciate you being here. And I will see you guys tomorrow for another Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. So that is it for me for today. Signing out. You guys have a good one. I'll see you next time.